Can't tell if I'm on or not. Yes. Okay. Hey guys, I'm Fancy and you're watching the Good Wives Network. And okay, hold on. I got to get this down. I popped that up there. Tonight we're going to be talking about a lot of things. I'm mostly going to take questions tonight. Kind of like the live we do over on TikTok, except it's just me tonight. I want to kind of get a feel for what you guys are looking to get more information on since we have been starting to put more things out. I know that you've been watching the TikToks. I understand that they're a little chaotic. If you're in one of the TikTok lives, it's not really all that chaotic. We're answering questions and covering specific topics. But when we do it here over on YouTube, Colleen and I have done that for many years over here. We just haven't been able to do so. I thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I know I look a hot mess. Like I said, I've only been out of the hospital from my surgery for a couple days. So please forgive me. And if I sound a little loopy tonight, I am on pain medication, but I assure you I will get through all of this with you guys tonight. This is something we are working on, Unchained Melody, a book about the generational abuse in the Petrie family. Would be fascinating. Dee Dee's way more multifaceted. Gypsy's just a superficial little whiner. Well, that's something we've always wanted to do. I didn't want to. Okay, there we go. That is actually our goal. Is in the beginning we wanted to write a story that literally took you from start to finish as to, what's happened in this family, because it's this family. I'm gonna mute for a second. I think my husband just walked through. Okay, it may be a little noisy, guys, but I'm just trying to. So thank you. Tonight, I mean, I've got a lot of things. I brought a lot of stuff. This is all the Nick emails that I brought. I've got a bunch of those. I've got all the medical records here tonight, but I'd rather not get into a lot of the medical stuff without Colleen, because she can give you the best pieces of the medical stuff. We're going to have her come on and she's going to talk about why we at this point in time believe that this is not a case of medical child abuse, but more a case of medical fraud and a long con with doctors and all of those types of things actually involved in this. Yeah, I'd like to find out if the voodoo jar was actually buried as well, guys. I can say there's not a printer in the house, so how did she print out the pictures and all of that and collect the blood? And it's just a far-fetched story for me. Is it unusual for the story? No. I mean, there's been tons and tons of allegations that that Dee Dee was into witchcraft and all that good stuff, So if you're tuning in for the first time tonight, though, welcome to our channel. For the last 7 years, my team and I have worked in true crime in the entertainment industry. I started in the entertainment industry as an actress, a writer, and a producer as a kid. I raised a family. I came back to it, and this was a story that kind of fell in my lap 7 years ago. I met Christy Blanchard, Gypsy's stepmother, in a chat in a chat room or a Facebook group. I didn't even realize how they worked or anything. I just went into one because I'd seen an ad for Mommy, Dead, and Dearest hadn't even premiered yet, and I saw them bashing Christy in there, and I couldn't figure out what was on. And I kept reading everything, and I identified with the story quite a bit, like I think a lot of America has done. I think a lot of the world has done, and I think that that's part of why people are so in love with her or absolutely can't stand her, because they're projecting their own traumas, their own experiences, their own abuses onto her. She's not a hero in your story, guys. She's not the villain in your story. She's not your poster child. She's just a girl who was, groomed and taught to be a liar, a con artist, a sociopath, a stealer, a manipulator, all those things by a family. And now you're watching that unfold. And I can't understand why people are okay with that. I don't understand it, but we bring straight facts and truth. We have all the evidence. So whatever noise you hear out there about all the drama that surrounded this case for the last 7 years, while these two individuals have been, supposedly behind bars, they had more access to the outside world than I've ever seen an inmate ever have. But all the drama honestly is created by the people inside of this to keep a distraction going. Okay? It is all a distraction. Everything. The media, going to the media with all the things and putting the stories out and da 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 da, and all the different drama and bringing these people in and this scammer over here to cause distraction. That's all this freaking case is, including the medical documents, the emails, the discovery file. It's just all one big, huge distraction from the fact that these people were con artists, and she convinced a boy to, he's a man. He was a man at the time. I'll say a man, but he had a diminished capacity. His IQ level was at 77. He's on the autism spectrum, and he had other types of mental health issues. Does he have DID? No, he does not. But he does have other types of mental health issues. We've done some extensive research on some of that, his philosophies and things that we want to cover. But that's why this story is so messed up, because it's all meant to be that way. Because then you can't see what the right hand's doing while the left hand's doing something else. That's what this whole case is. So I ask you to start with us from the beginning. We've put out a lot of information over the years. Some of it is still accurate. Some of it is not, because there has been so much information that was suppressed and held. We're getting new things from Nick's trial now that he's going, he's putting motions forward for his new trial. There's a lot of things that we hadn't seen before. There's 3 videos that are now starting to circulate of Gypsy that are not really bad Gypsy videos of how she manipulated him. Some of the more text messages are coming out. I think as we go into this, I hope he does get a new trial based on some of those things. Do I think he'll ever get out? No, and I don't think he should be. But I don't think he should be in prison for life. I think he should be in a mental health facility where he can get help, because he needs help. So basically, I would like you to do me a favor. First of all, I'm going to set some ground rules. If you're here, we're not going to talk about unnecessary drama outside of this case and the things that happened within the 7 years that are directly related to the people involved. If you have questions about anything that anyone else says about me, my team, or anyone else, you can come directly to us and I will talk about all of it. I am not innocent in all the things that happened for those 7 years, but I have to say that every single one of us was being manipulated by some of the best master manipulators I've ever seen. It's a long con, and they did a number on everyone. So even the people that are out there spreading other information, just take their information with a grain of salt. And if you have questions, we're open to talking about that. But anyway, yeah. So it's all a con. It's all a con. It's all a con. All right. Anyway, that's one of the first ground rules. The second ground rule that I would like to set is, can we all agree to no longer refer to it as the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case? Can we just call it the Dee Dee Blanchard case? Because that's what it is. And what we're reporting on, and what our book is called, is It's All a Distraction: Our 7-Year Journey Investigating the Life, the Crimes, and the Murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. And that's exactly what this is. And so we're going to look at all of that from the very beginning. So I'd really appreciate it if, instead of giving her all the fame and glory for this, and that she's how this poster child, there's lots of people involved in this story, and calling it the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case ignores all of those people. There's all victims. They're all freaking perpetrators, and they all should be talked about and respected in that way. And it's not just her story to tell. So that's number 2. And then the third one is, after sitting down with the Tarrant County investigator out of Texas the other day, I asked him a very simple question, because I have had a really hard time, along with my team, classifying this as Munchausen by proxy. And so I just don't feel it is. I don't feel it's medical child abuse. I feel that a lot of this, that most 99% of this was medically necessary things. And we'll go through those. And Colleen has been trying to go through those with you guys. And on top of that, I think there's a lot of medical fraud. I think that doctors were billing for things that were not happening. And we can prove that with the files that we're looking at. We now have a doctor. We had a full nursing team look at these, but now we have a doctor coming on staff that's going to look at this as well, to try and make sense of what these real results are telling us, and all of that. So I'm really excited about partnering up with her. But when I asked him this question, It was simple. I said, what is the difference between a grifting family with a long con, and this is just one chosen con out of all the cons that they're running, and medical child abuse? And what he said was, isn't it possible Gypsy wrote because she wanted her? Yeah, we'll get to that. What he said was, it isn't. Okay. In the court of law, there is absolutely no difference. So he asked me to stop calling it MBP or factitious disorder imposed upon another or any of those other things, because somehow we've managed to diagnose a victim instead of the perpetrator. And it's not a mental illness, it's a pathological disorder. And so by calling it a mental illness and calling it all those different things, then you are somehow absolving the perpetrator of being a perpetrator. And Gypsy was a victim of Dee Dee. Dee Dee is a victim of her mother. Emma was probably a victim of her mother, and Dee Dee is a victim of Gypsy and then she killed her. Nick is a victim of Gypsy. Dee Dee is a victim of Nick. I mean, it just goes around in a circle. But let's call it medical child abuse, because that's what it is when it is proven that things are done to a child or somebody in your care that is medically unnecessary. That's when it's called medical child abuse. And that's why Texas is able to get convictions when nowhere else can on these people, because they talk about it in terms that everyone can understand. We don't have to talk about motives or why Dee Dee did something or why one of these other moms did this or that. It all falls away and it simply becomes about medical child abuse. And inside of that can be lots of medical fraud. Do I think this is a case of medical child abuse? No. I do think it's abuse, but not medical child abuse. And I think that a lot of I think there's at least one doctor, possibly two doctors, that knew exactly what was going on and facilitated this. That's why they haven't been sued. All right, so let's see if I can get to some questions here. All right. Oh, this is a good one. I don't believe Gypsy was abused, meaning hit and tied to the bed. Okay, so that's a good one. I've heard that story several different ways from the very beginning to now. The first story that we were told from Gypsy herself and Christy involved the shed. The shed at the back of the property. Now there's 3 sheds on the property. The one that I'm referring to happens to be the one that is all colorful inside, painted with rainbows, and has the little stars hanging on. And I've got to tell you, we had so many conversations about that damn shed and what it meant and how did it infantilize her and why did they paint it that way. It was donated like that, just so you guys know. They donated her a playhouse. But the first story was that she was tied up outside and in there to that toddler bed, and she couldn't get out, and her mom didn't give her this and that, and she couldn't have food, and she wasn't getting water. But there's windows in there that are not covered, and she could have easily gotten they're so close to to the neighbors. I don't believe that story. Then it was my mom smashed my computer, dragged me home, tied me to a bed for a week. And it was, I believe that was when the dog leash and the handcuff story was told at one point. Then it was a chain, and she had to hold the chain up because she was urinating on herself. And when she went to the bathroom, she'd have to ask. That story has just been told a million times. What I can tell you is that there is absolutely no proof to substantiate any claims that Gypsy makes about child abuse inside of the home. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means there's nothing to substantiate it. Do I think it happened? I don't. She talks about her being her best friend and in a way that it just doesn't come across this way. I think Gypsy is just using any story that she can at this point to justify her actions, when all she had to ever do was come out and say, my mom was making me do all these things, regardless of whether she was making her sick or not. She was making her pretend to be. I had enough, and I took my mom's life. And she could have at many times. She talks now, there's the gun story, which that story's been told a million times, and that's not the accurate story. But if you could pick up a BB gun and shoot your mom 10 times and she didn't do jack shit to you, but you walked off with a guy and she smashed your computer and tied you to a bed for 2 weeks. I mean, come on, Gypsy, seriously? it just, the lies are insanity. Lies are insanity. What's the question? Okay, let's see what Buttons ask. If Dee Dee kept constant, how was she able to? Yeah. Okay, so in the end, I don't think Dee Dee was, guys. In 2012, when Nick came on the scene and she was meeting guys online and she was running off, to meet Dan and doing all of those different things, she was well aware of how old she was. And I don't think that Dee Dee was paying attention at that time. Dee Dee was sick. Dee Dee had gout. She had GERD. She had uncontrolled diabetes. They said she was in a wheelchair at that point in time. She was having a hard time getting around. The text messages were day and night, all day, all night, on all different varieties of devices. Yahoo Messenger, Facebook, Skype, Zoom. I can't even remember all of them. Like the Christian dating sites, the phones. It was on and on. It was nonstop. And I'm sure once we get the rest of the text messages, once his appeals are done or we see this new trial, I'm sure she was talking to many, many other men. We know of at least several. So I don't know. I mean, I think she had freedom. I didn't see the bells on the doors that she claimed were there. And people tried to tell me that, well, they could have been taken off. But that's one of her stories, is why she couldn't leave. There were bells on the doors. There are not bells on the doors. There's not. And she could have walked out at any time. And in fact, I read a CPS report when she was 18 years old, where Dr. Steele, in her lifetime confessions, he talks about calling in a kidnapping charge, right? And then he thinks this is a kidnapping thing after he sent her to Dr. Flaskerstein. That's a bogus whole story. There's a whole thing about it. He is the one who called. He called it in on an MVP suspicion. And the reason I know this is I read it to you guys earlier, yesterday, day before. It's a 5-7 minute video where I read the whole report. It's from inside the house. 2 police officers went out there with a social worker, 2 social workers, I believe. And the reports are in there. She was 18 years old. Dee Dee could not produce any freaking documents, and they closed the case because it was unsubstantiated. And all Gypsy had to do at that moment was stand up and walk out that door with those cops and the CPS worker. She had the support of her doctor in that. So you know what? I don't know how to make you a mod from over here. Can I do that? Let me go over here. I'll see if I can do it over here because I have to go out of the thing. I would like some mods though. So let me get over to where I can organize it from over here. I hope I'm answering questions, guys. I'm trying to get through all of them as you guys bring them in. I'm hoping that I can keep on track with you guys enough. If I get sidetracked, please just bring me back to the question. All right, I'm going to mute that. All right, let's see. All right. All right. All right, that's one of the mods. I need one now. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. So where was I? Where was I? Hold on. Took that about mods. I know you did. Okay. Hold on. The bells. Yes. Okay. Thank you. The bells. So there weren't bells on the doors. And that was in 2009 that report came in. Have you guys seen it? I can read it for you again. It's pretty shocking. I also, if you have not seen the video, the video that I did in her own words, that one's pretty shocking. So those, I think you guys should definitely go and check those out. One of them is her crime spree and the things that she wanted to do with Nick once they had done what they did to her mother. And then one is the other one is the CPS and all of them going out there. Yeah. Oh yeah. He was interested in Christy. That's the love of his life. They were dating in high school. She was with him the day that Gypsy was born. He was at a fish rodeo dropping acid. Yeah. Mom sighed because she was so sick. Did she actually abandon her while she was sick? You know, guys, I don't know. I mean, I know there were reports of her being seen all around. There were reports of her being seen all across the Springfield. Christy is the stepmother. She's married to Rod. She has two of his children. She has Dylan, who I think is 8 years younger than Gypsy. And then I think there's Mia, who's 10 years younger. I have to check my records. There is a fourth child in there. So it's Gypsy. And I can't remember ever if the girl in between is below or above Gypsy, but she's 4 months older or 4 months younger than Gypsy by a whole nother freaking girl. And Christy, there's a whole story there where Christy convinced him to give up the rights to her to the new husband because, you know, it's just the better thing for her. Well, the better thing would have been to maybe have her dad around the whole time because he wasn't in her life either. But he was in Christy's life and he was with Christy and her children because Christy made him be. She held on to him. And she had no love for the other children. She didn't care about them. Out of sight, out of mind. It was all about her. So Rod and Christy been so she probably reason he divorced Dee Dee. There's a story there. I can tell you the story in Christy's own words. I have a letter from her, which I've been wanting to share. Let me see if I can find some of that. No, probably put it over the other side. There's a letter in Dee Dee's and Christy's own words about the night that Rod and Dee Dee got married. Christy alleges that they were at a bar that night celebrating the wedding. Rod had been thrown in the slammer for, I don't remember, drunk driving, a warrant, something like that. That old man Claude had to get him, bail him out so he could make it to the wedding. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't know if they got pulled over and all that stuff. But anyway, after the wedding had transpired, they were celebrating at a local pub and Christy was outside with him and he was trying to kiss Christy and be with Christy and Dee Dee came out and caught them together. And I think that's the reason why Dee Dee didn't want Christy anywhere near her or her children or any of that. I don't think it had anything to do with anything else. Yeah, I do think Christy felt that way. I think Christy feels that way today, guys. I think that's why there's a husband in the picture. I think that there's a husband in the picture because they didn't really want her to come home. I don't give a shit that they built a room off their house for her. Who cares? That's just for the reality TV show. You know, she does never act with rage against her mother. She always talks about my mother wasn't a monster. My mother was my best friend. I loved my mother. My mother was just very sick. She doesn't, the people that are around her are just, they did nothing to help this girl in any way, shape, or form. Gypsy is who Gypsy is today because of everybody that was in Gypsy's life. They all failed her, but they all shaped who she was and is. And she can't escape her parents any more than anyone else really can. It's so ingrained in her. You know, it's just so ingrained in her. Yeah, let me find the letter, guys. Let me see if I have it. Hold on. I just can't do a lot because I can't bend a lot of ways. Let's see where I put it. Oh, goodness. I can't lift a lot either, so just give me a fair second here. Let's see. I want you guys to see something from back when we started these. This is our outlines for our actual podcast. These are huge. We don't just not prepare, but when we do these lives and when we came back to what we were doing, you know, we were a little rusty and we're down a very valued member. So hang on. I know it's in this pile because I put it in here today. Oh, here's the offer of proof for Nick. I do want to kind of talk about some of these things in here because this is the assessment from the doctor for the defense as to whether he was competent to stand trial or not. I found what I was looking for. Oh, wait, no, that's Dorla. Oh, that's from the sister. I'll read that one too. All right, let's see here. No, come on. Here we go. Got it, guys. All right. It's really long. This is from her. Okay. So, all right. So first I want to read She was not getting intense therapy, and I can prove however many times we freaking talked about it. You guys, okay, look, I'm going to tell you, start over from the beginning of everything you've ever heard, ever looked at, ever seen in this case. Okay? Throw it all out. And you don't have to believe the things that I say, just throw it all out. Okay? Start over with us. Look at every single piece of information that we give you, from the discovery files to the medical records to the text messages for 7 years to the emails to all the communications that we have with all the families and all the people and all the players involved. We've teamed up with, a lot of other people to pull this all together. So start with us at the beginning, okay? And let's go through it. And if you disagree with something me or my team says, we can have that discussion, but let's just do it respectfully, okay? Because I'm going to tell you, there's nowhere else you're going to get the information that we're giving. And that's not arrogant. That's just the truth. We did a lot of work. And a lot of the people that are out there that claim that they know things, it's because they worked on this team and they don't know what they think they know, because they only know however much they saw or paid attention to. And our system is failing. Yes. Yes. All right. So I'm going to start with Dorla. This is the sister. This is Dee Dee's sister. I believe she's the closest in age to Dee Dee. Okay. There's a big gap. I posted a picture of it, and the date for Dee Dee's birth is wrong, but it shows them each, and they're Claudia or Dorla, one of them drew it for me when I was down there sitting in their home, and it's like stick figures, and it shows the birth dates and all of their little their nicknames and all of that. Well, we're not going to call it, we're not going to call it that. The medical problems that started in Gypsy's life started when she was 4 years old. Are they substantiated or not? That's kind of what we're going to operate under, of looking at all of those and seeing what we think was actually medically necessary, what was actually just billed, what was actually just said, and then what actually happened. So we're trying. Oh, I know how she can be worth $5 million, but let's read this. Okay. So this is Dorla Petrie. It was given to the court on, right here's the date, if you guys can see, received October 19th, 2015. My name is Dorla Petrie. I am one of Dee Dee's sisters. I only have a couple of times I can recall, due to the fact that I lived in Mississippi during the time her and T-Rod got married, even started dating. Had Gypsy, got divorced, etc. On one event, I came down to the bayou to visit with my parents, and my daughters were playing outside. Then Dee Dee came visit with Gypsy. She was in a wheelchair. Dee Dee went to the store and left Gypsy with us. As soon as her mother was out of sight, Gypsy would get out of the trampoline with my girls. The minute she saw her mother coming back, she dropped like a rag doll, like she couldn't move her legs anymore. Dee Dee got out the car and came over to the trampoline and yelled at Gypsy and pulled her off and put her back in the wheelchair. They got in the car and left before we could ask any questions. Years later, me and my sister went on vacation, and Dee Dee and Gypsy surprised us and came visit us in the hotel room. We went walk on the beach, and my sister carried Gypsy on her back like a piggyback ride, because Dee Dee said she had no feeling in her legs, and that's why she was in a wheelchair. We never questioned her. That's not true. They've come out many times saying they questioned, and they told Rod and everything else her legs, and that's why she was in a wheelchair. We never questioned her because we thought she was telling us the truth about Gypsy's illnesses. All the doctors were agreeing with her. No, they weren't. So we didn't think to contradict her with questions. We went back to the hotel room, and Dee Dee went to her car and got Gypsy fresh clothes or something. And when she left the room, Gypsy started jumping from bed to bed. Me and my sister was shocked. The minute she heard the door, she dropped like a rag doll again. Me and my sister just looked at each other and didn't say anything. Next thing, she's packing Gypsy up and they leave. Gypsy was about 9, but it's crossed out, so I don't know what originally was. I'll show you. See, it's crossed out. I don't know what originally was there. We didn't hear from Dee Dee again till about 2 years ago. She found us on Facebook. When we started to ask questions about her or Gypsy, she would block us for months with no response. She was the baby of us, and she was well protected by our mother. Dee Dee always got what she wanted. So that's from Dee Dee's sister. What do you guys think? Okay, so I want to talk about this. This is a great question, and then I'm going to read the stuff from Christy. It's a long letter, but we can still read it for a little bit. I'm going to be on till about 8. Then I'll take a lot more questions, and I'm going to head over TikTok at 9 o'clock, guys, and be over there. Okay, so, but isn't it true that she's breaking the law in Louisiana for publicizing her crime? What you're talking about is considered the Son of Sam law. It was designed to keep violent criminals and criminals from profiting off of their crimes by sharing, going out and selling their stories. And the reason it was abolished, basically, it is still on the books. It is still in several states, but federally, they determined that it's unconstitutional for the First Amendment, which I think that's freedom of speech. I'm pretty sure. And so basically, that's what they're saying, which I don't understand it. I think it's still crap. Okay, because they can share their story and still not be paid. They don't have to be paid for them to share their story. That I don't understand why that is, but that's what they're several years ago. I don't remember when it was done. I don't know if it was a long time ago or early, but I know that Son of Sam law was taken down because of that. That's why they're allowed to do this. I think it's wrong. I think it's really wrong. Let's see. I think the sister and more are going to try and get money. They already have. That's how they got paid. They all got paid for the documentary they just did, guys. That's why they were all in it. And they'll tell any story that sells them and tells them and makes them get time. And they don't even care what story it is. They don't care if they throw each other under the bus. These people had nothing nice to say about Dee Dee. They don't have anything nice to say about each other. It's the weirdest family, the weirdest case, the weirdest situation I've ever witnessed. Right. Somebody said, I was born in a toxic family as well. There's so much manipulation, so many different types of lies and addictions and betrayals. And believe it or not, the kids pick up those habits very early. No, they're taught to. And that's exactly what this family does. They teach their girls to go out and do this. The men go out, they do whatever they're doing, whatever thing they do. But I mean, I got information just as recent as last week that they all ran scams during Ida, collecting money from FEMA when their houses weren't damaged. Now that's allegedly, that was given to me through a close family friend. And basically they told that friend that they should have done it too. And that friend said, no, I don't want to lie. And they said, well, why? Why don't you want to lie? Why don't you want to lie, guys? This is who these people are. I don't think that they can. I don't know if they could sue for wrongful death or not. I'm sure they could have at some point in time, but they chose not to. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Very, very, very messed up family. All right, let me see here. I'm going up and looking. It's 17 stabs. 17 stabs. And and then it's not a slice across the neck. I want to make that clear. It's a sawing motion where he almost severed her head. Now, I say he because that's the evidence we have currently. I am waiting for an autopsy report to come in because Christy kept that from us as well, and hid that. I'm waiting for the medical examiners, the time of death, because there is some discrepancy right now as to whether he was actually in town. Nick was in town on time. Like, his bus ticket says he didn't come in town till the 10th. He tells a story about actually bumping into Gypsy at the hotel and then going back to their house to do whatever they were doing. And he didn't know it was even Gypsy. Like, he ran into her at the day's end. And his bus ticket says the 10th, but the medical report says she died on the 9th. I don't know if that's a typo because we've never been able to see the autopsy report. There's a whole story about the autopsy report I can tell you. Hold on. I wanted to pull up. It's okay, guys. It's okay. Hold on. I saw a really good one. Thank you guys for all the love and support. I really, really do. Mommy, Dead and Dearest was a great introduction to this. There it is. Okay. Mommy, Dead and Dearest was a great introduction to this case, guys, but it's very much a narrative. They had all the opportunity to have all the information that we have. They had a lot of it, and they chose a narrative. They chose a narrative just like everybody else. Gypsy's Revenge did the same thing. They, in fact, kept one of the brothers from being able to participate in it because he spoke out against Christy and Rod. And Christy and Rod and Gypsy told them they would not participate if they ran with that part of the story of that they spoke out against Christy and Rod and who they really were. So these people have silenced anyone that speaks against them in any way, shape, or form. You don't get the truth, and you get doxxed, harassed, silenced any which way that they can because they don't care. They do not care. And you're going to see a lot more people that have been collateral damage. But let's get this question. Can you address the rumor Dee Dee refused to let Rod visit Gypsy? Well, yes and no. Okay. There's one court document, and I have it, that he took her to court. It's the only time he was dragged into court for back. He didn't even take her to court. He was dragged into court for back support. And the back support was because he didn't think that he should have to pay certain medical bills because he felt that Medicaid was paying them and that those supplies and things should have been covered by Medicaid and insurance and the insurance he was providing and all of those things. And so he was back. This is the story. He was in the rears on some child support. And this was when she was pretty little. The court filed in her favor, in Dee Dee's favor. They made him pay the bills. They made him pay his back child support. They had him, they had a warrant for his arrest for it. They suspended that and everything and gave him time on it, so and then there was never any there was nothing else. Now they allege that they gave child support up until the day that she, that Dee Dee passed away. I can both look at that and say possibly not. We have files, but we don't have all of them, and I don't think so. I don't think that Dee Dee just kept him away. He's in a lot of pictures for being kept away. Look back through the pictures. He's in them with her at various times. There are various times when he's in them with both Dylan and Mia and her. This is not the truth, guys. There was no court orders. He never took her to court for visitation, not one time. I mean, even if he thought she was as sick as she could possibly be, absolutely horribly sick, let's go with that. And he didn't think he could take care of her, right? But he could have at least petitioned the court to be able to have supervised visits with her. He never did. She didn't move further and further and further and further away, like he says. And I have a letter from him telling how deceptive she was and all of that as well to the courts. And so they, so they allege that they didn't, but I think they were more involved in her life than they say. It's such a convoluted mess. I can tell you a story they told. Makes no sense to me. It probably won't make any more sense to you, but it's the story they tell. And it just drives me nuts. The story they tell is there was a time when she was in Springfield. Okay. And they were scheduled to be on vacation. They had gotten to the Tennessee border. God knows what they were doing in Tennessee. I don't know if that was their actual destination for vacation, because that's not the way you would go from Louisiana to Missouri, but whatever. So they're they're in the car. They've got Mia and Dylan in the car, and Mia is supposed to be 10 years old. Okay. Mia is supposed to be 10 years old. They get to the border of Tennessee and she's not answering the phone. They can't get a hold of her. They say this happens all the time. She can't get a hold of her. She can't get a hold of her. She can't get a hold of her. Okay. And so he's calling. Now, he says that Christy tells me that Mia fell apart. She was 10 years old. She's crying. It's just another time she's going to be disappointed to not see her sister. Blobbity, blobbity, freaking blobbity, blah. And they turn around and they go home. Now, think about that, guys. Your sick, disabled child and her sick, disabled mother are states away from you, and you're expected to actually show up and see them, but yet they're not answering. And instead of going to investigate and find out what's wrong, maybe something happened to them. Maybe Gypsy's in the hospital. Maybe Dee Dee's sick. Maybe they're dead. Who freaking knows? But their choice is, nah, you know what? That we're not going to do this. We're going to turn around and we're going to go back home. And we're not going to look for our daughter today. Her neighbors, their neighbors, guys, the neighbors, Christy and Rod's neighbors didn't even know he had another child. And he has 2. There's a second child. There's 4 children altogether. They didn't go through the state. There was never any state ordered child support other than $100 a month back in the 90s, back when she was really young. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Let's go through this. I wanted to do Christy's letter though. I'm just gonna try and find pieces of it, guys. This is her handwriting. Okay. Let's see. She starts off by saying, Dee Dee hoped I'd have a boy or he'd leave me. She told the priest that her and Rod were still married, trying to keep Christy and Gypsy, or Christy and Rod, from marrying. There was a whole scandal there. No, the 4th child is a girl. She's 4 months older or 4 months younger, I don't remember, than Gypsy. And Christy convinced him that he wasn't in her life enough and he should give up the rights to the new husband. Well, you know what? If you'd just been in her life enough, then you wouldn't have had to give up the rights to your child to another man. You would have raised your child. Let's see. Dad not allowed to visit with Gypsy until after Rod and okay. I was not allowed to visit with Gypsy until after Rod and I were married. Well, maybe that's because you were kissing him while they were married. 6 months older. Thank you. Never allowed us to keep Gypsy for a day. I thought that they said that they didn't want to keep Gypsy for a day because they were scared to keep Gypsy for a day. Wasn't that one of the stories? Hardly worried. Never let Gypsy talk for herself. Never allowed Gypsy to have a private conversation. Dee Dee always had to be present. Never asked Rod and myself to attend a doctor visit. Now I want to talk about that. Okay. She never asked Rod or Christy to attend a doctor's visit. Does that mean that Rod and Christy couldn't have gone to a doctor's visit if they so chose? No. They had every right to know when the doctor's visits were, why they weren't being invited, what was wrong with their child, and they didn't go. They say, well, she changed the date. Then you contact the doctor and you say, hey, I am her father. I have legal right to know what's going on with my child. I'm very concerned about her health, and I want to know how to help my child. But he never went to any, not a single one. I don't know if Dee Dee dated anyone else. I don't have those information. I think there might have been a guy at some point in time, but that was for the act. I don't know if there's actually a real guy or not. Possibly. All right, let's see. Let's keep going. Yeah, she says she'd call and let us know how the doctor's visits are. Never shared us the doctor records. She didn't want us to put Gypsy on private insurance. We never questioned Dee Dee on the care of Gypsy. We would question the mother. Who would question the mother of a very sick child? We thought Gypsy needed around-the-clock care. Every time we'd see them before Hurricane Katrina, we would have wonderful visits. They played the part very well. That's part. Let's see. I first met Dee Dee. Oh, here, this is her story of how she met Dee Dee. This is Christy's words. I first met Dee Dee when she started dating Rod. Rod and I were best friends for 4 years prior to her meeting Dee. When I first met her, she was really nice and didn't seem bothered that Rod had a best friend of the opposite sex. I had met and had nice conversations with her. Next thing, I was getting a call from Rod saying he was going to be a father, that Dee Dee was pregnant and they were getting married only after a short time of them dating. I was not happy about the situation because I knew he didn't love her. I refused to go to the wedding due to the fact it was all for the wrong reasons. Not long after they were married, 3 months later, on his 18th birthday, they separated for a short time, get back together. Then shortly after, he left again. Before Gypsy was a year old, Rod and I started dating. Gypsy was 6 months old at the time. We hid the fact we were dating because Dee and I were working together at the hospital, same floor, same shifts. Dee was a nurse's aide and I was a medical surgical receptionist. I knew it would cause problems when she found out. When she did find out, she was not happy and asked to change shifts so we didn't work the same hours. I eventually kept working at the hospital because Rod said, hold on, I've got it out of order. Let me see if I can find the right page. That's the last page. Here it is. Okay. Rod said he was making enough money as a father, as a father to support us. Things were fine for a while with no interference with Dee. Well, abruptly, that did change. I would get calls from Dee's friends saying that Rod told them I was his sister, and they would say they were with Rod the night before, and I could hear Dee in the background talking and laughing. They couldn't have been with Rod the night they said they were because he was with me. When I would call them out one night on it, they would immediately hang up on me. This was done a few times. Then I got pregnant. When Dee found that out, she called me and said she hoped I had a boy because if I didn't, Rod would leave me. Regardless, boy or girl, he would not have left because we were in love. Before, during, and after we had our son Dylan, Dee and I would get into arguments, and a week or so after the argument, Rod would get a subpoena to go to court. Bullshit. There's no subpoenas to go to court unless they just don't exist out there. I don't know, but we checked and we checked and we checked, and they could never provide more than the one subpoena to go to court. A subpoena to go to court. She took him to court quite often. I eventually something her and quit, and she quit bringing Rod to court. Eventually, Rod and I got engaged, but had a long engagement when we started to plan our wedding and set a date for March 26, 1999. We went back to my priest, Father Dean, at the Holy Rosary Church that I attended. Since Rod was married before and did not have a church wedding, we were allowed to. As Father Dean and I were talking, he is also a longtime family friend. I told him not to be surprised if Rod's ex-wife called and started trouble. Father Dean said, I don't think she'll cause trouble, and left it at that. The following day, Father Dean called me and told me Dee had called him, telling him how dare he try to marry Rod and I because they were still married. He proceeded to tell me he had a copy, or she proceeded to tell him he had a copy of their divorce decree and asked her if she wanted to set up a meeting. She said yes, so they set one up for the following day, but she never showed up. I couldn't believe she called and lied to a priest, God's right-hand man here on earth. Dee Dee did not allow me to see Gypsy until we were married. After we were married, she called me and told me she was tired of the arguing and didn't want to fight anymore and wanted to get along. We succeeded at that. So we thought eventually they moved away. Several times they moved and ended up moving to Slidell, which is only about 20 minutes away. She gave Gypsy her undivided attention, around the clock care, which we thought was needed with all the illnesses. Meanwhile, they are seen in many documentaries talking about how the siblings told him and her that she could walk, and that Dee Dee was doing this to him. He in his own words talks about all the manipulation and how he saw it, and he always thought something was wrong. But here we're hearing, oh no, we thought everything was perfect. We never questioned. We didn't do any of that. I do believe she was forced to leave town because, yes, she was paroled to Louisiana instead of Missouri, and she had 48 hours as a parolee to get to the town and place that she's supposed to be and check in with her parole officer. And I think he's doing a shit job of just letting her run all over the place. So, I mean, that's there. This goes on and on, guys. I'll put this letter into our Patreon so you can see in Christy's own words her tales, and then we can discuss them later against evidence and text messages and other stories that we've heard. You know, but let me see if there's some more questions. I hope you guys are enjoying what I've done tonight. I just really wanted to pop on tonight and get questions answered for you guys. We're going to start putting out more organized content. We've been doing a lot of that. Check out what we put out in the last couple of days. There is a live that I will put up from last night on TikTok. It's actually pretty good. There was a lot of good conversation in there. I know that they're chaotic. You just got to listen for the conversation and go back and replay it if you miss it. And you can always come and ask for clarity from one of us. Okay. But make sure you're getting it from one of us, not from third-hand parties who think they know stories. So let me go back here and see. Yeah, I'm working on a written timeline of Dee Dee, Rod, and Christy and the children and all of that. I'm sure she probably did block you. Let's see. Fancy, it's very contradictory that a helpless abused girl supposedly monitored 24/7 managed to engage in a sexual role, including sadistic dynamics so many times. Marcelo, I agree. I don't think that she was a completely abused, held captive person. I think she had a lot of freaking freedom. There were several computers and telephones recovered from the house. There was several recovered from her herself when she was arrested. She has told many stories of that laptop story. She was definitely having relations with different men, not just Nicholas, online. I think that was the new con. I think they were, oh, I'm the poor sick girl, the poor disabled girl who's in, and I just want love and I just want somebody to give me love. And I think that's what they were doing. I think she was fleecing men for money on the internet. I think that's why there was a ring light. That's why all the sexy lingerie. There's no truth to anything they say, except for when they base it in truth. There's truth, but it's because that's the thing. You base a lie in truth to keep your lies straight, but they're not even good at that. We've heard 19 different stories about one thing, and how can anyone keep that straight? How can anyone keep all that straight? So I do think that she was doing, much more than anyone knows. And I think Dee Dee knew. Or if she didn't know, she was drugging her and Dee Dee was very sick in that bed because they weren't going out very much at that point in time. There weren't bells on the doors to keep her out. She was over the age of 21, it had already, I think that there was lots of stuff going on in that 2015 while we came to a murder, but I think none of them was that Gypsy Rose was in danger at that point in time. And that's why she decided to kill her mother. I think the gig was up. There's a lot of stories. Last night my daughter has a theory. Sarah's theory is that they planned the murder together because Dee Dee knew she was very sick. It was time for her to go. We've never been able to figure out what the end game was, and they planned it together. And this was the way for her to give her daughter a fresh start without having to go to jail for all the fraud and leaving her holding a bag of a shit show. Because if she'd gone to prison for all the fraud, she'd be doing life just on that. And I think they came up with this. They found a patsy, and that's what they did. That's my daughter's theory. I feel like it holds water when you think about all the things that Gypsy has said took place on the night of the unaliving. She talks about making peace with her mother. They watched a movie. They painted their nails. She took sleeping pills and she went off to sleep. And there's several versions of what she said to her. One is, please don't hurt me. That's an odd thing to say as the last thing your mother said. And now it's come out that she said, I'm not dead yet. So who was actually in the room? Who was actually wielding the knife? Who did everything? I mean, if Nick wasn't in town because the bus ticket says he wasn't, and this one thing says, then who did it? Did they frame Nick all the way around? I do believe he stabbed her. I just don't think that I don't know if he actually is the one who took the life. She could have covered her up with the blankets. Somebody else could have been in there. There was Pepsis all over that house. And everyone that you've ever heard talk about Dee Dee says that Dee Dee said that the Pepsis were evil. She didn't believe in the sugar. And it's not a sugar allergy. She literally didn't believe in drinking sodas. She thought they were evil, and they're everywhere in the house, in the crime scene. So who else was in the house? Where was Gypsy getting them? Who was bringing her food? Something is not right in all of this. Something is not right in all this, guys. The math is not mathing. The lies are not adding up. Oh, they're just, it's really hard to get through all of it. I try so hard to keep on track, guys, but there's so much rattling around. Kim Ramey, I want to bring you up. I like some of the things you're saying. I don't see her and her husband are going to last. There's only so much a person can take. And yes, her husband's not a social media person, but he knows she is loving this attention. Yeah, there's a lot going around about Ryan right now. There are things that have come out with him that he, his original story was that he was fired from his job as a special education teacher of middle school students because of his relationship with Gypsy and getting married to her. That came out on her friend Rachel's TikTok when it happened. They were absolutely livid that this was happening to him, and how dare they, and that shouldn't be a factor. Well, I'm sorry, he signed bylaws, and there's rules and regulations, honey, and they do apply to you and anyone who's associated with you. So if that's the case, they had every right. It was a private school. That's a morals clause. They had every right to let him go. I wouldn't want him around my children if this is the person he's associating with. It would be scary for me. However, there are also allegations that that wasn't the reason he was let go. There's allegations that he was inappropriate with students, and that's why he was let go. I also see there's a communication. Now, everybody talks about how Dee Dee used to squeeze Gypsy's hand. I talked about this. I don't know if I talked about it here, or if I talked about it earlier in a different live on another channel for somebody else. But do you see that they have that kind of same dynamic? But it's not one way, okay? It's not just Dee Dee squeezing on Gypsy, or Gypsy squeezing on Ryan. Or if you watch it, it's a communication between them. This is how they communicate. It was a squeezing process to, hey, you're getting off track, and it was a communication between the two, not just a control tactic by Dee Dee. So I think he's a plant. Honestly, I think he's a media stunt. I think Melissa Moore put him in there when they decided to do the reality TV show because it looks really good. And I honestly think Christy and Rod are fine with it because they didn't want her coming home to their home. Because who would? They didn't care about her then. They don't care about her now. All they care about is the freaking money. It's really irritating and very sad. And this is teaching our children are watching this, guys. Our children are being told by the media that this is okay. Joy Behar sat up there on frickin' The View and literally said to her, you did nothing wrong. And the other host had to look at her and say, Joy, we can't freaking condone murder. It's disgusting. Let's see. He's got somewhat of a childlike behavior. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. There is an absolute pattern with these two. Okay. Nick and Gypsy, they have a pattern. I don't think she's good people. She tried to screw me out of my contract. She tried to get me to participate in this documentary, and she knew why. And she went to my team instead of coming directly to me. No, I don't think she's good people. No, I don't. I had respect for her before, but I've had actual interactions with Melissa, and I don't. Sadly, I think she's gotten taken up into this story by them. And again, they're master manipulating them. But Melissa had every opportunity to actually listen and know what I know. I met with her several times. Instead of coming directly to me, she tried to pick off one of the weakest members of my team that has certain issues and has mental health issues, instead of coming directly to me to talk to me about being involved in the documentary that I refuse to be in. So no, I don't. I think Melissa is absolutely, you cannot trust mainstream media at all. Not at all. She's part of that entertainment system. It doesn't, you can't. You don't know these people. You think you know these people. You don't know these people. So anyway, I think that that's what he is. I think that he's either that or you know, I mean, it's just not right. Something's not right. There's something not right. There's something not right. I'm not talking about her saying she didn't like sugar. I'm talking about the family says it. Listen to their document. Look at the documentaries. Bobby says it all the time. All right. Anyway, let's see. I mean, there's a whole scandal with her and Ken still going on with this guy. Think what if Dee Dee was already, yeah, exactly. You can tell she doesn't like Ryan. I can see it. There's something off about them guys. I just, Rachel came out with a bunch of stuff. I'm sure she's going to come out with more about it because they've really hurt her and what they've done to her. And you should really pay attention to that. So let me see. This can be 13-year-old was telling me, oh my God, yeah, see, this is it. Your 13-year-old was telling you about this case. There is no reason a 13-year-old should be running around knowing about this woman and her being on Dancing the Stars and being some sort of role model. She's not an advocate. She's a freaking predator. She stopped being a victim when she decided to make a mentally unstable man manipulate him and get him to unalive another person, essentially ending two people's lives that night. That's when she stopped being a victim. I'm sure it started long before that, but for me, that's when it stopped. That's when she became a perpetrator and she knows exactly what she's doing and she is continuing to pull the strings. And what I don't think we have seen even the surface of what's going to end up with this shit show of her being out running around, the media hounding her, people fangirling over her. It's just sick. It makes me sick. Yeah, it's going to be up all night. I mean, it'll be up for you guys to watch. But thanks guys for tuning in. I think I'm going to pop off. I need to get some rest before I do my live on TikTok. If you'd like to join us over there, I'd really appreciate it. Guys, if you have questions that you are hoping to get some answers, you're more than welcome to send us a message. Drop us an email at goodwivesdish@gmail.com. You can reach us on any of our socials under Good Wives Net. You can find us on Patreon, which is where we're starting to put all of our documents and things. And there's lots of other stuff in there. There's other things from other cases in there that we have. There's tons of stuff in there. And our other content creators that are part of the Good Wives Network are going to be able to start posting in there other things as well. So it's a really great resource. You can do that. You can, go to our link in our bio. There's lots of ways you can support us. We're looking for people to come and help us with any of this. If you have experiences and you want to help out and you'd like to help us get the story out, because we are actively trying to get this out and they are actively doxing, harassing, bullying, and stalking and suppressing this information from being out there. And no other reason than it just makes them look really damn bad. I hope you guys keep tuning in, keep coming back, drop us a line, send us a question, hit that subscribe and like button, please, and give us a follow, shout us out. We're really appreciating it, guys. You're allowed to share our content as long as you're doing so factually and crediting us. I appreciate all the love you guys are doing and sharing it out there. And I'm hoping that we're making some sort of difference in this, our next thing that we're going to be wanting to do, we're going to go take you through this, but also one of the other things that my team and I are working on is we did extensive work with Lacey Spears, who is another Munchausen by proxy mom. I mentioned her earlier, and she killed her son with salt poisoning, Garnet. And so we're going to be comparing and contrasting the differences in this case to that case and trying to figure out, what is this really like. No, I don't think the Gypsy should be a mom, and I want to address this. And this is my words, and I'm going to say it right now. Okay, it's not my opinion that she should not be a mom. It is the opinion of the leading experts in Munchausen by proxy and medical child abuse that a person who has been subjected to this level of abuse, okay, and it is, whether it's medical child abuse or just the level of grooming, abuse, and lies and manipulation that Gypsy has been subjected to her entire life by every single person, their assessment is that she should never be able to take care of anyone ever, because it is so ingrained in her to continue and repeat the behavior. I am not saying that I don't think, I don't want her to, it's not that I don't want her to be a mom. I simply want people to be aware that if she is, someone needs to be watching those children very closely. It's just the fact of the matter. That's it. It's not a hateful statement. I'm trying to protect other people. Your children should never be around this woman. I told people close to her that, hey, don't let your children be in a room alone with her, because she's manipulated. She manipulates. Look what she's already done to the 15-year-old kid, her cousin, putting him all over her freaking Instagram, asking women to hit him up. He's 15. No, I'm going to make this very clear. I am not afraid that they will come for me. I'm not a felon, and I'm always packing. But I have the truth, and I have all of that on my side, and I'm not afraid of her. Have I discussed getting a restraining order? Yes. Am I looking for legal actions against them for what they've done to me, my family, my team, and other members of that I know? Yes, absolutely I am. So if there's an attorney out there that'd like to help us take on this case, there's a lot of people that have a lot of money, and you could make a good case for yourself, taking care and making sure that these people don't do this to anybody anymore. We need to stop the bullies. Natasha Cooper's involved, Katie Paulson's involved, Christy Blanchard's involved. They're all trying to suppress and dox and stop this information from coming out, and I just won't allow that to happen. I don't want them hurting any other people, and that's what they do. They hurt people. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tonight. And like I said, like, subscribe, share us out there, send us messages, guys. Come give us some support, and check us out on TikTok if you're on TikTok. We do a lot of cool stuff over there that I don't do over here. So I appreciate it, guys, and I thank you for your time and support. Have a good night. Bye.